Howdy folks, I'm Dour Dryad, drearily drying dirt-loving dogs.
I'm Amber.
And here are more dirt-loving dogs for us to dry out. I mean, I don't know why we would do it drearily, but I guess that's what we do as dryads. So let's get started. I thought we were just tree people. Alright folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Refusing to Sell My House to a Landlord? So, I bought a fixer-upper in my 20s with my now ex. I bought him out, but I agreed to give him back his portion of the deposit that he paid upon the sale, whatever that might be. We remained friends as we've known each other since childhood. Regardless of that, I still plan to stick to my word 8 years later. I told him that I was in the process of selling the house. He asked me if I had any offers, and I told him yeah, but from a few landlords. I didn't think that it needed further explanation because he knows full well how I feel about landlords buying up starter homes in lower income areas and how strongly I felt about turning this house into a home for myself and the next occupants. He absolutely was furious at me for not going for a quick sale because he wants his measly $5,000 back now. I told him no way, and I tried to remind him of all the offers that we made on starter homes that just got swept up by landlords. It was devastating, and we almost lost all hope of getting on the property ladder. None of them wanted this one because it needed so much work. He's blowing up my phone and told my parents, who are more gently telling me to go with the sale, but I'm in no rush to move, and I want all of my hard work to go to a family instead of someone in someone's business, so am I the jerk? Edit, giving him $5,000 specifically from the sale has been discussed over messaging many times in the past. If I just give him $5,000 now, he could say that I still owe him for the sale of the house. Getting him out was a nightmare, and he can be pretty nasty. Most of the time he's fine, but he suddenly switches and goes to war with people. Alright folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk, and good on you, OP. We really need more people like you who are focused, don't just see the dollar sign and actually think about the families who are going to have the chance to inhabit the house now.
Yeah, well, it's such a awful situation when people come in and sweep up, massive amounts of real estate, and that makes it even harder for people to get by, right? Because it drives up rent, it drives up all kinds of other costs of living, and it can be really difficult, especially in low income areas, right?
And it also makes it so people can't own homes. They're forced to rent indefinitely because that's all there is in the area.
Yeah. And so I just think that it's a real travesty that there are so many people buying up these houses, and so many of them just kind of sit empty too, right? And that's a real problem because if you buy up a bunch of houses and then you kind of basically make an artificial supply and demand on renting, then you can just charge whatever you want at the end of the day, right?
Right. Well, and because of tax breaks, that if they're not able to charge the price they want at the moment, it's the more economical for them to just leave the house empty and have no one in there.
Yeah, and it can be depending on the situation and the taxes and everything like that, right? But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Play Pretend 8675309 says, if you bought him out, you bought him out. The return that he got, his half, includes what was spent on the deposit. The implication that he invested more upfront, but then you paid him out at some different split. You should have taken care of it then and there and buy out his stuff and walked away clear type of deal. Also, you're a gentrifier. You're a 20-something who bought a low-value home in a low-value neighborhood and spruced it up. Whatever you have to say about landlords also applies to you. Do not pretend for a second that you're one of the good white gentrifiers. You're a white gentrifier, and that's that. You deserve it because you put in the time and money, or because you had the opportunity and can't be blamed for taking advantage. Whatever. Own what you've done instead of pretending that you haven't done it. And OP replies, I didn't space it up. The house is far from pretty. I just made it actually livable. It didn't even have a toilet when I got it, and I'm pretty sure I'll have an early grade from all the mold that I knocked out of the walls. What does white have to do with it? Almost everyone in my city is white. You're weird and bitter, or maybe your country isn't the same as mine. And AG says, in whatever jurisdiction you live in, do they allow you to purchase a residence with no working toilets? And OP replies, the UK. The house laid empty for years. The toilet was blocked with dead things, and I regret attempting to unblock it myself before just replacing the toilet. The elderly owners had passed away, and the son was struggling to deal with it. That was just one of the many issues that made it unlivable. I didn't have much money to fix it up. I did all of it on my own using YouTube on a shoestring budget. My ex was useless and would just say, but I don't know how to do that. Lifting a toilet up a set of stairs alone was a trip. I mean, I think that that person's original comment about OP being a white gentrifier is completely uncalled for.
Well, the thing is, like, there's a huge difference between making a house habitable
Mm-hmm.
and doing a cheap flip job to maximize profit.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with making a house habitable, and it sounds like this was OP's home. Like, making a house yours to live in and then eventually selling it is very different from buying a house, fixing it up for a few months, and then putting it back on the market for like double what you paid.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge difference. I think that they're really missing the subtlety, right? Because OP bought this house to live in. They didn't buy this house to flip it, right? And I think there's a huge difference between those two types of things. If you buy a house to live in it and you improve on it, that doesn't make you a quote unquote gentrifier, right? It just means that you bought a house and you wanted to improve it. Does that mean anytime anyone puts any kind of money or improvement into their house, they're quote unquote gentrifying, right? No, no. I think that would be a ridiculous argument. And I don't know that many people would agree on that. But I think the fact is that really, at the end of the day, OP didn't buy this house to flip it. And, you know, sometimes what these flippers will do is they'll come in, they'll put $20,000 worth of, you know, value into the house, and then they'll sell it for, you know, $100,000 more or something like that.
Right, and they'll use the cheapest quality material, so it's just going to fall apart on whoever owns it next.
Yeah. And so that's really the unfortunate thing. And I think that's what that original commenter was getting at, but I think that they kind of missed the mark with their comment. All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a Jerk? My husband took my lawn chair and tells me to get another. My husband and I were visiting my sister's farm. We were chatting with family outside the barn, and my sister and I bring out two camp chairs to sit and chat. After about 15 minutes, I get up to take my dog for a quick walk around the paddock. I come back, and my husband is now in my chair. I ask for it back, as I would like to sit and talk to my sister some more. He refuses and says that he's comfortable and is now occupying the chair longer than I had. Tells me that if I want a chair, I should go and get another one. Am I the jerk for thinking that a man should offer his chair to a woman, and that I had set the chair out to begin with and used it, and should expect to be able to continue to use it? I was not only humiliated in front of my family because he wasn't respectful, but he tried to make me look like a jerk just for asking. All right, folks, what do you think of this one?
I mean, I don't think it's a gender issue. I think that, you know, if he wanted a chair, it sounds like would have been more chairs inside for him. He should have gotten a chair. You know, it is not cool to go and usurp something that your partner has like taken the time and energy to set up, even if it's just as simple as a chair.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was a bit disrespectful here, in the respect that OP had gotten this chair out for themselves specifically, and then they went and walked their dog around and then came back for it. They were, you know, expecting to come back and talk with their sister. You know, it would have been a simple matter for him to go get up and get a chair of his own, because OP brought out their own chair, and now he's just kind of being lazy at a certain point, right? And, you know, I mean, that's kind of where I view this. You know, I think that he really should have gotten the chair. I don't think this has anything to do with gender. I think this is just kind of like one of those dual type of respect type of situations where it maybe, strictly speaking, he wasn't technically in the wrong because like he's using the chair and OP had given up the chair and stuff like that. But I think there's just a level of kind of disrespect that he did have here.
Well, and like different people have different ideas around it. But again, why didn't he get a chair to begin with?
Yeah.
You know, why is he waiting on OP to get a chair and then sweeping in and taking it?
There's just something that kind of feels off about the situation. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. But folks, let's see what the Wheel of Judgment has to say. Wheel of Judgment, turn, turn, turn. Tell us the judgment that OP's earned. Cosmic Karma Delivered.
Makes no sense.
That doesn't make any sense at all. Apparently, OP deserves it for walking a dog.
Well, it's the thing is like she's also like doing something that like presumably someone was gonna have to walk the dog, so like he's lucky Opie was taking care of that chore.
Yeah. And engineer number 1996 says, "Is your husband 12?" And Shut Up and Play Ball says, "And he's the jerk." And Ham Radio 73 says, "And husband decided to pick the wrong hill to die on." And Guilty Jellyfish 8165 says, "If she didn't call dibs or shotgun or lick the armrests, doesn't that mean it's free to anyone? That's how we did it at 12. Rules are rules." And Straddle the Fence says, "Lick the armrests." Haha. And Captain K, USS Cry All the Time says, "Not the jerk, but it's not a man offering a woman his chair situation. It was your chair that you had brought out for yourself in the situation. He should have gone to get his own. And this wasn't really an am I the jerk thing. You didn't do anything. You can't be a jerk for how you feel about something." And Apprehensive Rice 19 says, "Everything about him in the situation makes him the jerk, and something tells me that he might just be a jerk." All right, folks, and our next letter is titled, "Am I a jerk for scooping up my neighbor's Yorkie's poop with a kitchen spoon and leaving it on their porch?" So I'm a 30-year-old female, and I've been dealing with this for months now. My neighbor has this little Yorkshire Terrier that is honestly adorable, but they let it use my lawn as its bathroom almost every single day. Because it's a small dog, the piles aren't huge, but they're constant, and the neighbors just never pick up after it. I've asked them twice, very politely, if they could please clean up after their Yorkie. Both times, they kind of brushed me off and said, "Yeah, sure," but nothing has changed. At this point, my grass smells. I've had to throw out a pair of my kids' shoes after they stepped in it, and it's just gross. Well, yesterday morning, I walked outside and found a fresh pile right near my porch steps. I was already irritated and in a rush, so I grabbed a kitchen spoon, I scooped it up, and I walked right over to their house, and I set it on their porch with a note asking them again to please pick up after their dog. Later, the neighbor came storming over, furious, saying that I was childish and gross for doing it. They told me that I should have just called them, and a couple of friends have said that I went too far, while a few told me that it was probably the only way to get the message across. I feel a little silly for using a kitchen spoon, but I honestly don't know what else would have gotten through to them. So am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. It's their waste. It's their responsibility to pick it up. And OP tried talking to them. And so their whole, "Oh, you should have just called us." No, OP tried that. It didn't work. The only way to get through to them was to leave their grossness on their doorstep and let them know this is your problem now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like OP flung it at their door or something like that, or like made it harder to clean up for them, or put it in a flaming paper bag for them to step on, or any number of things that people do with dog excrement. So, I mean, like, pretty mild. Weird that they throw out shoes instead of just rinsing them off. Weird that they used a kitchen spoon instead of like giving a shovel. But yeah, I mean, none of the things here tell me that OP's a jerk for doing this. If anything, they were pretty mild about the whole situation, right? After a certain point, like, I mean, we had a set of neighbors who had a dog, and they refused to clean up after the dog, and we asked them a couple of times, and then fortunately we could go to the main office about it, and after the main office sent out notices telling people to clean up after their dogs, we didn't see their stuff. But sometimes people just need more incentive to clean up after themselves, right? And it's a shame that they couldn't be adults and do it on their own.
Yeah, well, and like you shouldn't be letting your dog do their business in someone else's lawn like that. Like, if you want to be lazy and not clean up your own lawn, like, it's still a health hazard, but at least it's a health hazard to you and people on your property and not to the whole neighborhood.
Yeah, and at a certain point, maybe OP just needs to get a fence. Like, I mean, it's unfortunate, but maybe a shorter fence where the dog can't jump over it, or it's, a more difficult thing. And that way it stays in the neighbor's yard. I don't know. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Even Speech 570 says, "Repeat this behavior until they learn their lesson. You asked nicely and they deserve this." And Pride of Cape Town says, "OP was a lot more polite than I would have been. I legit would have thrown it at the door and wrote a note, just returning what you accidentally left at my place. But maybe send them one last notice, text, email, or something with a timestamp saying that you repeatedly asked them to pick up after their dog. Then get cameras covering your yard and record each time their dog drops a load and they don't pick it up. If this doesn't stop, at least you'll have proof for the next stage. Maybe bylaws? And Rogue One 23456 says, so I've told the story before on another subreddit. Our neighbors had a dog that they allowed to poop pretty much all over the neighborhood. For some reason, the dog really enjoyed going into our yard. I asked them multiple times to please pick up after their dog, and each time they would apologize and say they would, but they never did. Well, then one day, I'm in a really bad mood. I went outside to get the mail, and right in front of my mailbox is yet another pile of dog poop. I know it's their dog because I saw them just 20 minutes or so before outside with him. So I went over to my shed, I grabbed a shovel, I picked up the poop, and I slung it towards their house. My plan was for it just to land on their grass, but I slung it a little too hard. Remember that I was in a bad mood, and it hit their front porch with a thud. I was kind of stunned at first because I did not mean to toss it that hard, but at the same time I was just like, F it, they deserve it. And then I cleaned off the shovel and I put it away and I went inside the house. Their dog never pooped in my yard again. I mean, that is one way of handling the situation. And Hector Jose Zapata says, I would get as much evidence as possible and take them to court. They're supposed to clean up after their pet. And Powerful B 1845 says, until then, just use a spoon to fling the poop up onto the roof. That is terrible. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
Why was the zombie teacher frustrated?
Well, because none of the students had any brains.
Yeah, because his students weren't using their brains.
Ah.
So, I mean, I like yours a little better. And it's World Teacher Day today.
So appreciate your teacher, even if they're a zombie teacher, but don't let a zombie teacher eat your brains. And I have licorice spice. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy special Sunday, folks. And you know what makes it special? You do, and Amber does too.
And Brian does too.
Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on pets.
Clean up after your pets.
And always make sure to get your pets spayed and neutered, as Bob Barker would say. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.